Hey, you're you, I'm casual, and this is GunsUp Mobile. Today, let's talk about troop reinforcements in a base. Now, this comes up often enough that it's worth repeating for newer players. Players don't really want to play around with their base or don't really understand how these things work. These are the sandbags, these are the tank traps. I have no tents up right now, so I have no unit reinforcements. And so the first thing I'm going to show you is what happens when you set your veterans to cover. Now, what this means is they will start from the back, filling up these reinforcement spots. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 veterans, and there's 2 units per tank trap and 3 units per sandbag, and of course, remainder goes over here. So that's veterans. They will start from the back. And they will populate forward. There's no order to this. They'll just populate however they see fit. You cannot arrange them, as far as I know, as far as really anybody knows. I think you can game it a little bit, but that's as far as it goes, and it's very fiddly. Outposts do not reinforce. So that's that. Only tents and here veteran lodgings. All your veterans. So the question is, you hear sometimes people say, "Oh, the veterans go in the back," or "Why are my veterans showing up in the front?" So let's start putting down some tents and see what happens next. And we're going to put down a tent. A tent, I said. Tent is where? Tent. Put down a tent. And in this tent, we're going to spawn. We're going to spawn the grubbiest of units. We're going to spawn the almighty grunts. Now, grunts here, it says fortifies with 11 units. I said reinforce, fortify, whatever. Fortifies with 11 units. So you see here, all these guys, they'll start from the back and spawn forward. And if we place down a few more tents. Sorry, we're going to end up scrolling at some point. More guys. I cannot put down any more sandbags, actually, so we're going to have to live with this. I mean, I can put down sandbags. Sandbags contain 3 units. Tank traps contain 2. So the only way I can fix this, and leftover just go nowhere. The only way I can fix this is if I replace these tank traps with sandbags. I can get more units in here. And the other way to do this would be to just set my veterans to something other than cover. And they will disappear from here, and now there'll be more room for my units to spawn. Now the rule of thumb is support units go in the back, and general assault units go in the front. And then the veterans will invariably end up in the middle. So the veterans don't spawn in the back, they don't spawn in the front. It's the other way around. There's rules about support units, such as chems, flamers, colonels, medics, surgeons, sergeants, etc. And then those are the support units. Then there's the snipers. They go in the front. The assault go in the front. So let's see what happens. Let's spawn some snipers. Where will they go? They will go in the front. They'll actually go in front of the grunts. Let's spawn some bounty hunters. Bounty hunters, they will go behind the snipers and in front of the grunts. Okay. Now you think, okay, there's my tent here for the grunts, my tent here for the bounty hunters, my tent here for the snipers. Okay, sure. Let's spawn some snipers here. Let's spawn some grunts here. Play around with it. Let's spawn some bounty hunters here. Okay, there you go. Now, that's like this, but what if I put them over this way? You know, there's definitely some shenanigans going on. Because most people, when they build a base, they'll put all of their reinforcement points, all their fortification points, in front of the tents. And so, sure, you can do something like this, where the units will spawn near the tents that they're supposed to come from, but in reality, nobody builds their base like that, right? You're not building your base with your reinforcement points around your tents. You're building your base with your tents behind your reinforcement points. And so what we end up here with here is we have our snipers, we have our grunts intermixed with the snipers, and we have our bounty hunters. And if we spawn more bounty hunters, we see the snipers get pushed towards the front. The snipers are spawning here in the back, but they're getting pushed towards the front. So you can play around with that. That's entirely up to you. My point is, this is the general configuration of how your units will spawn. Let's put our veterans back in. What happens when they go into cover? They go in the back, and they push all the other units forward. But we're going to get cheeky now. We're going to, instead of the bounty hunters, we're going to have some colonels. And what you're seeing now is the colonels, they start from the back. They will populate one per reinforcement point, or fortification point, whatever you want to call it. And they will push the veterans forward, because if you then have, let's say, oh, I want to have mad scientists. Well, they're also a support unit. They will spawn one per fortification point, and they'll push your veterans forward. Oh, but I want to have engineers. Apparently, engineers are also support units, and they will spawn one per fortification point. They will push your veterans forward. Okay? That's the general gist of how fortification works, actually. There's not really much more to it, other than if you have a tank trap in the back, they can only spawn 2, so they'll push everybody forward as well. What if you have 2 mad scientists spawning in tents? Well, they will, in this situation, spawn 2 per. That's right, they'll spawn 2 per sandbag, because one is from one tent and the other is from the other tent. And they'll push everything forward. They'll push your veterans forward. That is our reinforcement, our fortification guide. What happens when you set your guys to reinforce, but you don't give them enough room? What happens when you don't give your veterans enough cover? Where do they go? What happens to your veterans then? There's one right there. Where do the rest of them go? They will spawn from your outpost at the start of the battle. They'll spawn from your outpost, and they will act the same way as attack. They don't have anywhere to go, so they'll just spawn at the beginning of the battle, and they'll walk forward. Okay? What other units are support units? Let's see. flamethrowers, mad scientists, colonels, engineers, chemists, sergeants, scouts, surgeons, medics. These are our support units. So they will spawn one to a fortification position. There's our medics and our mad scientists. Let's put down at least one more reinforcement point so we can see in case there's any overflow. Yeah, medics reinforce a few more guys, so there's a few more guys here. Okay, what happens if we just put a whole bunch of defensive units? Let's say we have bounty hunters and we have trailblazers and we have our riot. Here you go. What is the order? Riot in the back, party up front. Riot, bounty hunters, trailblazers. Just like their range, by the way. Trailblazers have the shortest range. Riot have a longer range. Maybe that's the way to go. Let's see. Let's do some simple units like grunts, which have a range of. Okay, where did their range go? Oh, that's right. I believe they have the range of 21. And our assault, which have a shorter range. No, I haven't really looked at their range in quite some time. And we'll have our it's a good one, Ranger. Let's take a look. Let's look at our Spartan squad right here. We have a range of 20, range of 18, range of 19. So what do we expect? I don't know. But we've got our Rangers over here, then we've got our assault, and it looks like our grunts didn't make it. Poor grunts. Say a prayer for them. They didn't make it. They're not in the fortified area. All right, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope this was entertaining and educational for you. I'll see you around.